On this episode, we're talking community.
I mean, we were just sitting back, chopping it up, reminiscing about the good old days and all that. Tracking my roots.
I'm glad you guys have this relationship.
You're looking right at the... What do you think?
I think I look good.
It's good.
Always said it. It's not about the destination. It's all about the journey. Ain't nothing changed but the weather.
Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 19 of the vlog. All right, let's get started. So this is a collaboration that I truly never thought would happen, but I am so glad that it did. On today's vlog, we have a really special guest and a blast from my past. This goes all the way back to grade school. Tim Jones is here, and we're going to be talking all things community, all things potential, and bringing out the best potential in us. So Tim, thanks so much for joining. It's so good to see you. I mean, it's been what, 20, 25 years? I don't even want to say how many.
This is our 20-year reunion.
Yeah, exactly. So Tim and I knew each other in grade school. He was a remarkable personality, to say the least. Man, the memories that I have are really narrowed in on the backyard football games that we used to play. Yeah. And this was when you would play football in your backyard for 6 straight hours.
That's right.
And this was when you played tackle football. Like, there was no flags or no colored pennies.
That's right.
And so Tim, welcome. It's good to see you again.
So
before we get into it, I'd love to just introduce you, because aside from our connection in grade school, we've been connected as entrepreneurs, as two people who are really just trying to build a community. And would love to hear a little about you and what you do.
Yeah. So my name is Tim Jones, and I'm from the south side of Chicago. My mom had the foresight to transition me and my sister from West Inglewood to Schaumburg, Illinois for 8 years. And during that 8 years, I met amazing people like Anthony and a host of other people who really taught me how to be bicultural. And it was something that it could have never happened had I stayed in West Inglewood, 56 and Justine, for anybody that's from Chicago out there. But it was just one of those things that was transformative, and I had no idea because I was in fourth grade. I got to Schaumburg and seen roses for the first time, seen a tennis court for the first time, seen an Asian person for the first time, and it just transformed my life, and it led me to opportunities in the spaces that I navigate today. Fast forward a lot. Right now I run an organization in Rogers Park. We do affordable housing for the homeless. Our rents are set at 30 to 50% below market rate, and if we weren't there, these people would literally be on the street. We run a 36-bed shelter, 60-unit single-room occupancy, 10 by 10, 10 by 14 room. You share a toilet and a shower with the person next door to you, whether you get along with him or her or not. So it's something that, if you're having a problem with gratitude, if you're having a problem with thankfulness, come hang out with me for a week, and it'll shape your perspective on what really matters in life.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Let me go back, because before we kind of dive into a little bit more of your work, because I just think it's super fascinating. I want to ask, when you look back to those years in grade school, what do you remember the most? We all have those flash images of grade school. For me, it was literally being like throwing people around, playing tackle football in my backyard. Like, that's what I remember about grade school.
Yeah.
What do you remember? It might be a little different.
I think it was just the exposure. I mentioned the Asian girl, but you think of the last names, like Annarella. It's an Italian. Koski. Bartolome.
I recognize these names.
These last names, but there are stories, and there's lineage and legacy connected to them that you have no idea why those people are in your life during that season. But as you navigate the world, you realize, it all comes together. And, no one year, no one season is separated from, they're all connected. And the moment you realize that, the moment you be comfortable with the ebbs and flows of life.
Absolutely.
So that's a little bit deeper.
That's a little deeper than
you expected.
Playing football in the backyard. But at the same time, like, so connected. And I think a point that you raised earlier is that as we were going through this at the time, you weren't acknowledging the diversity and the different types of people that were coming out of your life for that season, if you will.
Right.
And I sure as heck wasn't as well too. But man, what formative years, you know? What I'm fascinated with is that here we are 20 years later, and we're in a world where, you and I were friends in grade school, but I mean, post grade school, like I would have never thought that you and I would be reconnected. Yeah. And we're in a world where you can build community outside of your physical community. Right. And that's ultimately how you and I collided really over the last year or so and started talking about collaborating. Yeah. And so let's talk about community. Let's dive into that a little bit. I want to hear a little bit about your mantra, which is very community based, and your thoughts on community and where you serve community in different aspects of your life.
First of all, we're all leaders, whether we like it or not, whether we acknowledge it or not. And I believe in an X-Man style of leadership. You can see through walls. I can run faster than the speed of light. She can make herself disappear. So we all have these superpowers that we bring to the table in community. We exercise them in however our gifting is set. And this is the two of the most fascinating things about it all is we don't care who gets the credit, and we give credit where credit is due. You have your gift, she has her gifts, he has his gifts, and now we're in community with one another, and just watch out. Nobody's in charge. We're equal footed. Again, give credit where credit is due, and no one cares who gets the credit. That's my idea of community. All those people coming around the table as often as possible, as thoughtful as possible, and now let's pulverize whatever we're going after. Yeah,
and now we can do it outside of our own little circle. Oftentimes the circle that we grew up in is a circle that we are confined to. Yep. And like we're at this point now where we can completely break outside of that circle and we can be connected in different ways. And it's everybody goes immediately to technology as the proliferation of community. It's not. No. I think it's society changing a bit. I think it's people being open to connecting with other people, being open to sharing ideas, and acknowledging that everybody has their own superpower, and saying, I can leverage that. Yeah. So that was actually something that you talked about a couple weeks ago on a radio show that I was listening to. Provide some perspective around really leaning on your community and leaning on the people around you. So tell us a little bit about Leave No Potential on the Table. Tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing in the community to build community.
Yeah, so Leave No Potential on the Table was this mantra that, was birthed out of my frustration with the way my life was going. I was looking around and seeing people, get to it and get at it. And, in my eyes, I felt like, they're not as good as me, or they're not better than me. Why are they popping like this? And I had to really think about it, and it was because I had suppressed all of these gifts, skills, and abilities that I believed I had. I suppressed them, meaning I smothered them, I tried to cancel them out, and I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. I believe what I have to contribute to the world is of value to the world, and I'm going to figure out how to do this. It's an exercise in reverse suppression. Leave no potential on the table. So I just started writing things out, things that I had interest in, things that I believed that I was good at, things that I knew were strengths in my life.
Just getting it out.
Just getting it out. And some of it's going to stick. Some of it you need to collaborate and partner with someone because you're not as strong at it as you think you may be. But the idea is that, all of us, when we come into this world, we are full cans. The goal is to die empty cans, open and empty. We're born full and closed, and we're on a dash. We only have a limited amount of time to get it done, to empty that stinking can out, and that's what Leave No Potential is on about. I am going to die empty and open.
Man, I love starting discussions at that level, right? And clearly, Tim is a facilitator of community. He does it not only through words, he does it through actions. and he's from the way that I've experienced you, Tim, you've done a tremendous job of deploying that message in different ways. So let's talk a little bit about like the business side of things, because that's something that I just think is so unique with the work that you do. You know, the value that you bring is so much in driving community, but the way that you do it tactically is almost business-like. And I think that's one way that you and I are now connecting 25 years later, is that we are essentially seeing opportunity in creating value and distributing it out in the community through leveraging business tactics. Right? I know you got an MBA, I did as well too. But at the end of the day, like I feel like there's this new world of entrepreneurship, of business, whatever you want to call it, where we just have all this opportunity to create value and distribute it in different ways. So talk a little bit about this new world that you're playing in, where you're able to merge your community work with business tactics and your business background.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons why I went to business school, is that I had been on the ground for so long, so I had the practices, I had the relationships, but if you want to scale, you have to create frameworks, and you have to create structures, and you do that. I had to find a place to get that theory. I needed a theory on how to create these formal frameworks to go further, faster. That's one of the challenges in the community, is everyone is so, you know, action oriented. They want to have the loudest voice, they want to have the stickiest message, but there's no structure to it. When the community gets out there, you know, one or two people were speaking. That was the benefit of the civil rights movement. You know, it was more formal, it was more structured. Not everyone was speaking and yelling and engaged, but it was this formal attack to getting what you want done. Because that's what business is about. Business is about making sure your will gets done as often as possible, so that your bottom line can grow. You want your will to be done as often as possible, so you need a plan, you need a framework, you need strategic processes, you need a strategic plan. The moment you become a leader, the moment you become a supervisor, there's this expectation that you have supervision, that you would provide a context different from the expectation. And so they're going to lean on you to provide a vision that is super, fair or unfair, because you're the boss, or you're the supervisor, or you're the managing partner. And you want to make sure that it's a thoughtful context that moves people in the right direction.
I'll tell you that just the merging of those two concepts in the way that we organize in the community, but bringing almost like a business mentality to that is just, I mean, that's an incredible combination, and it's starting to open people's eyes in terms of really the way that they interact in the community. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about where people can find you. What are you doing today? Tell us what you're doing. Like, what are you up to today?
IamTimJones.com is the website. Through that website, I get a chance to provide some help to corporations, universities, individuals about this whole idea of leaving no potential on the table. So from a corporation standpoint, team building, organizational health, I write 2 blogs a month on LinkedIn about leadership for any leader out there that's just trying to sharpen their skills. Again, it's a lifelong task. I think my last one was Leaders in Knowledge. I've done Leaders in Vision, but twice a month I write on LinkedIn. I do speaking. I just spoke to a bunch of, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders about building political power. I have a weekly radio show that I do, where I provide a motivational word of the day for those climbing the corporate ladder or entrepreneurs out there. And I'm just working really hard to provide a context different from the expectation. And I do it through those different avenues that I mentioned.
And I'll tell you, and I said this before, but I think one of the things that Tim and I really relate on is just the unbelievable potential that we really have as entrepreneurs, as community service members, as just humans, to create value and deliver value in different channels. And one of the things that I really appreciate about Tim is just his willingness to put himself out there your willingness to execute, right?
Yeah.
You are not only big ideas, you are real execution. And I think that's been the key to whatever success that we've had at Thoughtium, but I think it's also what I love to relate to other people on. And if there's any platform that you and I can stand on, there's a lot, but I would stand on the one that really appreciates the execution, really appreciates the work.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you. I appreciate the fact that you and I have been able to reconnect over the years.
Yeah.
This is really just the start of a dialogue that I think you and I are going to continue to have, and really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch and to listen and to think about community and your own definition of community. Leave some comments below in terms of what you thought of this episode, maybe your thoughts on community and where you're taking it from a business standpoint, from a personal standpoint, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys for joining, and we look forward to seeing you on an episode-by-episode basis.
I mean, we were just sitting back, you know, chopping it up, reminiscing about the good old days and all that. You know, tracking my roots, where I came from and where I'm going.
I'll tell you what I want to talk about. There was one football game behind my house. I don't know if you remember it, but it was the most epic football game. And we started in my backyard at about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. And it was like a 16-quarter football game. And like we probably stopped at noon because we had to walk to like pizza.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a play, I'll never forget the play. Somebody that should have been thrown against the shed was thrown against the shed. And then you spend the rest of your childhood trying to recreate that.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Those are the memories, man.
Yeah, man, y'all got something going here, man.
It was awesome.
But I'm never giving up, that's why I'm kinda admired. Role model, like it or not, I gotta play it. Sugarcoat the rhyme sometimes.